So, welcome to another interview on the Journey into the Heart Summit. This is an incredible summit talking about transcending fear and stepping into purpose. Um, this is an incredible day because I get to invite Lisa Caprelli. She is someone that I really connected with I get emotional on a heart level. She is a 23-year entrepreneur. So she's been in the game for a long time with a background in social psychology, a Forbes contributor and author of over 21 books, legacy leader, award-winning author. She's got a recent focus on children's communication, writing children's books and really leading the way. And if you haven't checked her out on like LinkedIn or Instagram, do. She's got some of the most, especially recently, some of these beautiful unicorn photos that just bring out my little kid in me. I love it so much. It just makes me so happy. It's such an honor to have you here, Lisa, and to just
Oh,
really get to know you and just to pick your brain and to get to know your heart and where you came from. So I invite you to really just introduce yourself, who you are, why you came to planet Earth. I know that's a big question, but I would love for you to just share with the audience who you are and how you help entrepreneurs and what you're doing in the world.
yes. Oh my gosh. I am so grateful, Kia, for being with you and having this heart-to-heart conversation. And I know our goal is to reach as many people and to touch lives in a positive way. I know that many people listening or watching this, people today, especially, with mental health on the rise as being something that is not taboo anymore. But for me, it goes back into all our childhood. I think many people can relate that, many times we come from broken homes, or there's things that happen to us as a child, or being a parent. I know you're a parent, and navigating the waters of life. And so if you're listening to this and you've been in struggle, or you are in something that's hard, or there's a struggle or loss, I think this show's going to be for you in overcoming that. As I know that with your story, Kia, and how you have overcome so much, and that I have two different stories. And you and I spoke before the show that, I've been taught as a Christian now that you can let your test be your testimony, your mess be your message. So with that said, I come with so many people that have supported my journey. I grew up in El Paso, Texas, a border town, a large Hispanic family. And I come from my parents were divorced. My mom had 5 children, and it was really hard to grow up like that. I can't even imagine. I have 2 children. I can't imagine have had five, and different times, different generation. My grandmother had just a third grade education. She was forced to drop out of school and third grade to raise her family because her mother passed away. And so I feel like going back to the roots are for all of us are so important, and where you came from, or where your parents or grandparents came from. And for me, I want to be the change maker to do as much as I can in this one lifetime. Thanks be to God that I'm afforded with, to have celebrated the huge journey from being a child that grew up poor, aka humble beginnings, that grew up super shy, introverted, that felt like the odds were against me because we were in a border town. There wasn't a lot of opportunity. I never knew what the word entrepreneur was. I never, much less did I know anyone around me. So to fast track my life and to now have been an entrepreneur, I'm so grateful for 23 years to have different businesses. My favorite thing I get to do today is lead as a children's author, and create amazing fun things like these characters, these little finger puppet books and songs. I've now learned how to be a songwriter. I'm singing now. I'm helping a fellow entrepreneur um, with his music brand, and so I find that you will attract in your life that which you like, the more you do get to be in that joy and learn where you come from. Always stay humble. And I'm grateful to share my story, because I'm one of many people's stories that proves that you can change your life, surround yourself with good people, be passionate about what you do. We all have our different interests. We're supposed to. Not everyone's supposed to be an author. In fact, I tell people it's kind of hard. I don't know if you want to do it. Let me really tell you what it's like. But if you do want to do it, or if you maybe your passion's to be an artist, an illustrator, like my illustrator, and he's actually is my cousin from El Paso, Texas, and it was his dream to be an artist, and he gets to do his passion and thing as well.
Wow, it's so great. And you're absolutely right. I love that you're talking about following your own individual, interests, because, as an entrepreneur that's brand new into the online world, I too never understood the word entrepreneur. Like, I was CEO for a while, come from also humble beginnings, and then corporate burnout into, family life, and then into the nonprofit sector, and then into very much what people call the woo-woo path. And, I too, like, as I'm going online and being in a brand new world and challenging myself again to reach more people, what you just spoke about is like following your interests has been the anchor to when I get lost, with all the people, all the things. There's, the make sure you have your niche down, your branding colors, you did this. And I'm like, there's so much. And for someone who has even experience like me, I oftentimes think about those that are, that have that burning desire to find their purpose and your interests. Like today, I'm really trying to scope down like my work and my program to get so succinct and clear. And what can I teach doesn't necessarily mean it's what I should, right? And my passions, and my interests, and that. So like you saying that just really kind of sparks that anchoring again of like, stay true to yourself, even though it might not be accepted, where it comes from, God, like that's you and God's relationship, and it is personal and private, and no one gets to tell you what it is, so like you saying that just gave me that inspiration. I would love to, hear a little bit about your journey, thinking of the beginnings, we're talking in this specifically to, what you said about struggling, the hard times, suicides are at an all-time high, and from my scope of work in trauma and healing, I'm very acutely aware of like child deaths and child murders, child abuse, advocacy, sex trafficking. So that's been a lot of my history coming from nonprofit and grief share for victims of violent crimes. When we think of these things and all the stuff pressing in, I can feel it. I can feel the fear, like the fear, and watching it happen even online, like the emergency broadcasting that we all had on our phone, like everybody thinking it was the end, and everybody expecting a bomb or aliens or the end of the world or war. And it's almost like that expectant energy is just robbing everyone of the capability to pursue purpose, to pursue who they're here to be and create. And I would love for just to like let you speak.
Yeah, well, the average American adult laughs 17 times a day. Just take a guess. Do you think the average American child laughs how many times a day? Just take a guess.
I would hope a lot more.
It is. Just guess the number.
Maybe like 40.
Okay, well, it's 100 times a day. Again, that's not yeah. So
good.
I say that because now I'm so grateful that I get to work with children, and I'll talk about and take anyone listening back to your childhood. If you could have had a book or grown up or been encouraged to do the thing I do, the thing you do, that's what this book's about. And I love sharing it with grown-ups because oftentimes when we're young and we're in school, it's what are you going to be when you grow up, and so many safe route careers, we're told doctor, lawyer, all these different, and those are great careers. But I think what would have happened if when you were young, you could have said, Kia or whoever's listening, we're going to mold you and build you to do the things that the God-given talents that you have, because they're right. We're all unique. We're different. That's why I wrote my book, Unique, like a unicorn jazz. So all the stories do connect with meaning, even for adults, because I feel like when we grow up and we become responsible and then we have to adult and we lose that inner child in us. And because I feel like I'm like Benjamin Button with my work, and that I worked with entrepreneurs. I've helped over, 160 entrepreneurs fulfill their dreams, purpose and meaning. I had a marketing agency. And then I wrote a book for teens in mind, because I wish that I could have skipped steps to have known that I was destined to be an entrepreneur and a writer and an author. So this book is called Skip a Step: Imparting Wisdom for Young Entrepreneur Minds, where I interviewed over a dozen notable leaders, and what questions we asked them was, what would you tell your younger self, your 21-year-old self, your 8-year-old self? What is the meaning of life? And after 2.5 years getting this book out, which it's really hard to write a book, but and especially a chapter book, but I had to finish it. There's a saying that I read, that you must do the thing you cannot do, and it's important to finish something if you start it, knowing that we do leave many things unfinished in life. But it's so important. People can have an idea, and because I've been known for marketing people's brands, purpose, and vision, people will say, I have $1 million idea, and I stop and say, well, the idea is worth money only if you execute it. It's worth zero today. It's not $1 million idea. And like the reality of that is how I pushed people in making them accountable and creating the process. I did with my, like finding their message. And I did that with Color Your Message when I was 100% in marketing, which I'm not 100% in that anymore. I'm doing my dream, my purpose and vision. And so after completing Skip a Step, and all these voices resonating of all these amazing, notable people and how they changed their life. They all had trials and tribulation. There was no one that just rose to the top. Everything was great, made all this money. Said no one ever. Everyone comes up with a story, and everyone, when they do want to start a business, they're trying to solve a purpose. They're trying to solve a problem, create purpose and meaning in their life. We get older, and we ask ourselves, what is the thing I really do? What are my hobbies, interests? And that's okay. So for me, I wish that as a child, I could have had my world open to these other kinds of careers that now I get to do what I love. It took me this long, but again, you remember, your test could be your testimony. So that's why I'm so passionate when I get to go to schools and speak to the entire, elementary school, even high school or college. If I didn't go through that journey, I wouldn't know how to be this person I am, to inspire people to, like, I get so excited when I see people doing what they love, like you and your story, and that you could take the safe route and do what you've always done, or you're starting with a completely new journey, knowing there's mountains and hills and valleys, understandable, but you still get up and you tap into that. You find people that have skill sets that you don't have, and then you team up. Well, guess what? Every business has a team, and we're supposed to celebrate the successes of others and partner with them. Like I couldn't do any of this without my illustrator. And so I can't forget him. I have professional musicians that help me write all my songs and get them in studio so I say today I'm just a spokesperson, and I wake up and say, God, what are my marching orders, and who do I get to invite into this colorful, creative, fun world? It did start with me creating it, but there was a lot pouring into me. And of course, I just became Christian 3 years ago. My sisters helped me with what that would be like. So I feel, for me, whether you believe in have a higher power or not, I wish that I would have known this Christian foundation as a child. So everything always goes back to, why didn't I know this as a child? What did I not learn? I was an A student, but what was I missing? Again, in schools, we're not taught about emotions and feelings. They are being taught now today with social emotional learning. We're not taught about how to pick the best partner for us. We're not, as women, we have to navigate these sometimes through relationships that have gone wrong, whatever our accountability was. And I like, again, pouring into young girls, young women, and telling them, don't be my age learning this. Let me tell you how to look at life a different way, how to choose a better partner. Because when you choose a not a good partner for you that doesn't have the same values, or you don't ask the important questions, life is going to be hard. And I want people to live in joy. I want people to be happy. And that's why I have Being Happy. It's just, it was a way for me to, one, correct my childhood, and then at the same time realize that many of us are going and navigating life, in similar ways. And people want people. We're designed to connect with people. We're not designed to be isolated.
I love this, Lisa. It is like the Benjamin Button, like really being in that adultish world. And then, what is incredible, like listening to that and seeing it, and in energy, like I do. It's like watching you, seeing that you get to, as an entrepreneur, not only be in your purpose, but work on yourself and do the things as you go. And that's, that's how I live. Like, I really am trying to, in all of this, to demonstrate that it's okay to show up messy and to not know it. And it's okay to really grasp that you might be an expert at something, but you might be very much a beginner at another thing. And with all of my skills and trainings and teachings, like, this is completely, new, right? Learning the language of the online, learning like
Yeah.
Zapiers and like, Zooms.
Yeah.
And I'm a fast learner, thankfully, but through the process, I've been in this like leadership training and emotional intelligence training. It's been profound. And I'm one that loves to just keep challenging myself because have been through so much. And I know that the more I pay attention and I love and I can reclaim those pieces of me, that is like my way of
Yes.
like the proverbial taking up the cross. And as I can bring back love to those spaces, then that means that when I walk in the room, I can immediately break that curse or
Yes.
that spell off
Yes.
of anyone in the room, just because I've already done it and I give that authority. And if you're with me on this, this is a lot of, more in my in-depth coursework that I talk about spiritual warfare and understanding our powers in that way with, our gifts that we have innately. And recently, I love that, it's kind of like Benjamin Button for me meeting you, because literally just this last few weeks, I've been having this acute awareness, like this struggle, this battle with all of everything. And I'm just like, okay, you've been an estimator, you've been an electrical engineer, you've done mass grade construction, you've opened 3 hotels. Like, why are you having such a problem writing an email? Like, what's really going on behind that? And I'm seeing that I've gotten to this space where I've done that work to where I'm at my infancy stage, realizing, my mom just passed away a couple of weeks ago, and my Aunt Sandy, she was sharing that she was almost incapable to help prevent the abuse that was happening. She tried, but my mother would, and not to speak ill of my mother, I love her dearly. So don't, I'm just sharing my truth, but that I basically was, left and abused and abandoned. And she would leave me alone in the crib for hours and hours with just like Kool-Aid bottles and just filled. And when my aunt told me this, I was like, why are you telling me? This is awful.
Right.
But then I got to meet you, and it just put me into this like spiral of like, okay, the little child, the littler one, not the one that wanted to climb the trees. This is like the little baby. And we focus on healing the inner child and spirituality, but this is like the infant, what love wasn't there, and the only language an infant has is pure emotion. It's pure. There's no language. There's no conceptualization. There's no, I wanted to climb in the tree to hide or to play or make friends with the bugs. And it was just love, no love, safe, no safe, comfort, no comfort, happy, like, I don't even think happy would be a thing. Like, just content, not content, like comfortable, not comfortable. And to think that why the resistances come, why the pain comes, why the sabotage comes. It's when we're challenging ourselves and going into these new spaces. Like, of course, that little infant had gifts. It had a purity. The young child had the imagination, right? The teacher had that fire, that like, I'm gonna do it, and it's the reclamation. And what you're doing, I see like is such a holy thing, because we were the children that didn't get word, the love, the safety, the patience, the acknowledgement, the comfort, the family,
Yeah, and everybody's childhood is different. I thankfully, I did come from my sisters. We had fun and we learned, like, I think survival is sometimes laughter, and we did laugh a lot. We laughed about our circumstances and just the crazy poor stories. I mean, this is extreme, and I'm going to say it just to sound, because sometimes we didn't have toilet paper. We had to walk to the corner gas station to use that. I mean, that's how, when I tell that to people, they're like, how embarrassing that is, that I couldn't have you over because if you need to use the restroom, I mean, those kinds of things. And my sisters, we have all these kinds of stories that we laugh as adults. We're not that anymore. But it's, we all have an inner child within us, and there's you read today, there's no way you escape learning or reading about, like, healing the inner child within us. And so for me, I want my messages to resonate with children, that they, as they grow up, because if you think about books you read as a child, you probably read them to your children if they were your favorite. So I think of that long-term legacy, that once I do leave this earth, what I'm leaving behind for my children, their children, and all the children, the schools I get to go to. When I see my books on another shelf, and again, I'm still, for me, in a startup phase compared to where I want Unicorn Jazz, my children's brand, to be a national and global name, but it takes time to get there. And that's why I share my message with who I can. And I rarely say no to an opportunity to speak in front of children and even adults, because adults have children, they have grandchildren, and a lot of times adults need that healing within them. So I feel like God gave me this platform to speak to all ages. I had children, so they're grown up now, but now I get to, I get to play with little babies with these types of books, and I just get so happy. That's what gets me out of bed. And God knows what he's doing in each of you, when you were created, and the gifts that you have. And just like, again, I can't even believe that I became Christian. I think it's a miracle if you've got to know that story. But imagine you're a child and you're being told you are perfectly divine. You are God's masterpiece. And this story is the Corinthians love chapter. Just lots of artwork, not a lot of words. I've learned to let my art tell the story, because for children, because when I was young, I liked picture books. And when I had to graduate to books without pictures, I was like, what's going on here? I still want the pictures. I learned through pictures. That's why a lot of us, sometimes a book's turned into a movie, and we're going to watch the movie, maybe not read the book. But I'm grateful that I know how to put thoughts together. People have often asked me as a child, like, what was I like? And because I was shy and introverted, my only voice was on paper. So I journaled my whole life. I wrote a lot. It was my form of expression. Looking back now, was probably my therapy, and for survival. And to this day, I wouldn't trade that for the world. But if I didn't have all those circumstances, if I was the popular extroverted kid, I wouldn't be observing the world. I wouldn't have had the quest for studying human behavior. I wouldn't have gotten a degree in social psychology. I wouldn't now know how to look back and now use my words. Now I got communicate. I got an education. My grandmother said, "Please, Lisa, get an education." I listened to grandma. So you are who you are as a grown up, and you can look back at all the, you could say, well, I'm a victim of this. Well, yeah, but what have you triumphed? And what have you overcome? And how can you teach others, whether it's one person, 10 people, 1,000, how can you use that to find your joy in today and share it with others tomorrow? It doesn't mean it's every day. It doesn't mean like every day I wake up and it's never perfect and I don't have hard days. Of course I do. But you know what gets me out of bed, or what gets me going into the next book or the next song, is people like you, people who are inquisitive, listening to this show, and they find a moment of connection, because all the things that I've learned, just like you're on this learning quest in this journey, which I could see you doing. I always say I want to learn till the day I die. Like, I didn't just want to keep it into college and the early years. We can learn from great people like Brene Brown, who, her the number one TED Talks of all time is her talk about vulnerability, and she says, among many amazing things, that when you're vulnerable, that's where you're going to find your creative space. That's where you're going to find your joy. Vulnerability is the birthplace of joy. She said it perfectly, and she's this like scientist, researcher woman from Texas. And there's so many people that I have been inspired by. So I get to take the best of and share it and connect it with people when they do have a problem, they're trying to overcome something. Uh, that's There's not enough time on this earth to learn from great people. There's not enough time to, you know, to also, push out the negative news, all these things, which I don't even get involved in, because I just say my number one change or purpose that I want to do is to help as many children, including the adult inner child within you.
Wow. It's so, it's so beautiful. When you were talking, like, I was just thinking about, the book that I would read to my son, and you remind me of this author of Shel Silverstein. I'm sure you're very adept to him, but a lot of the work that you're talking about really reminds me very much that you have that same spirit of you're teaching children's books and sharing this art, but really it's for every single one of us, because we're all in this together. We're all little kids, and
yeah, never stop playing. Imagine, I wrote an article, a Forbes article about, playing in the workplace, like how, if you could play, what would that look like versus being, all, corporate. And I've been in those boardrooms with the, wearing this business suit and everyone's corporate and that's fine. But I was always a
Nerf gun.
yeah, I'm the type that wants to disrupt that and bring in like fun and change. How can you make almost every situation, not all, but how can you bring fun into that? And I feel, though, that's my inner child that I didn't get to play enough. I grew up faster than I should have. I became a mom at 19, which I loved. I didn't, I grew up in, I feel like despair, not knowing what the future was, because, are we going to have a house tomorrow, when we were seeing people coming up and saying your house could be foreclosed on. Sometimes we didn't have enough food. So imagine, like, if I had that, quote unquote, normal, stable environment. What is that? What I wouldn't be worrying about that. I would get to be a child and play, right? More. And so for me, I get to play as much as I want to. I still get to play, and I get to, look in a child's eyes, and they give me back this amazing glimmer of happiness, with just a moment of connection, whether it's a song, whether it's just saying something positive about them, acknowledging something in them, to say, hey, I believe in you. You are unique. You are worth something. You belong. You matter. Words that I wish I had. I wanted to tell kids, when I go into schools, kids, when they're sitting down, I'll be present for you, sometimes 300 kids or more. It's like, thank you, God, I get to say a message to 300 children. Besides, they're there for my books and stories, and that's how I got into the schools. But to say, okay, well, I want each of you right now to look at your, person on your left and right, and say, thank you for being here. I'm so glad you're here today. You matter. And they'll say that. They stop and they say that. And that's the word belonging, but I'm not going to go up there and say, hey, let me teach you all about belonging. Like, you have to find how they're going to take it. But I know what I'm doing. And I know that oftentimes, no matter who you are, there's been a moment in life or more that you felt like you didn't belong. You felt like, why am I here? Why you want to give up? But that encouragement of someone saying, hey, I believe in you. I mean, that's probably one of the quotes I say to people all the time is, hey, I believe in you. And so in one of my books, the very first children's book I wrote, Unicorn Jazz, this is the Spanish one, Unicornio Jazz, because my books are in Spanish. Unicorn Jazz is a shy unicorn who moves to a new land in search of new friends. She feels like she doesn't belong until she meets a crow named Wolf, and who encourages her to sing because that's her talent. That's her uniqueness. Remember, every one of you has a uniqueness, a gift. You have at least one, and I could probably find 10 if I sat with you. And so at the end of the story, he encourages her to sing to the animal friends, and they're honoring her with compliments. And now they're saying, color with me, dance with me, sing with me. And then she sings her song, and they're all friends, and she's happy. I mean, just that little story. And so I tell kids, hey, your teachers, they're like Wolf the Crow to you, as my teacher, as my grandmother was. Hey, maybe you're going to be like Wolf the Crow for someone else. Maybe you're going to see someone, maybe I'm talking to a fifth grader, and they're seeing a peer of their struggle, and they're going to stop it and make it not about them, but help others. Because as I've learned being Christian, it's not about you, it's about helping others.
I love that. And you're talking exactly what I feel is legacy leadership. I've come into this online world learning this language, and legacy leadership seems to somewhat be affiliated with the amount of money that you have. And going right into this, that measurement of what is being measured as worth, obviously, like, I'm not there yet. So like, it was just very like, oh my gosh, and I like to sit with things and really like contemplate like human perception on stuff, and feel into the energies of this. And like, legacy, what is it to me? What is it really though? What makes a legacy? And I remember being really little, I was reading up on Einstein. I was probably like, I don't know, sixth grade or something. And what stood out to me is like, this guy's like, I was like, this dude is super old and everyone's still talking about him. And he's like talked about in school and everywhere. And it dawned on me, I was like, we talk about mortality and God and being there in heaven. And it's like we're talking about God and we're talking about Einstein. And it's like, it's the word, it's the word. It's really that written word. And that is that immortality, that contribution that he left to affect and give, right? It wasn't the atom bomb, like that was a manipulation of his work, right? And to know these things, and it just makes me like look at what you're doing as such a contribution. Because if we really take that responsibility as creators, if we take that responsibility as stewards of God, as stewards of this earth, as standing in that, in the drift as source for a new and transformed world, if we are to create a new world, we get to consciously decide what we give permission to. And you're bringing like an entire entrepreneurial path just because of joy and beauty and fun and building up children. And like, they are like so precious. Like,
they are. We were once them. They are future, and that's why it's so important. And I love that you say that about legacy leadership, because I use that word all the, I mean, I don't think I go around saying it, but in my head, like for myself, for my own, kudos for doing what we do. We all have our inner champion within us. I just think like I'm leaving a legacy behind, and I'm still so young. I'm only 52, and I get to live a long time. I get to write 100 books. I get to be, now I'm taking singing lessons because I want to become a better singer, because, if there's something you want to do and you can't do it, well, learn how, right? And so I get so excited, and I'm so grateful because, a lot of us, if the average work week is 40 hours a week, I mean, and not everyone gets to do what they love in that. And I understand that. But there's always a way to still have joy in your life, whether it's a new hobby or interest. I once saw Lionel Richie in concert, and he says, people keep saying, when are you going to retire? I haven't worked a day in my life yet. And I really I want to be like that. And no matter what I'm doing, because I do tap into many projects, and there's sometimes people are like, God, you're so busy. And I stop and say, I have busy joy I rarely find complaining what I do. Yes, behind the scenes, the work it does, the editing, when I go to events, I have to, use my muscles to put all the boxes, like the behind the scenes getting that. But I just say, Lisa, don't complain, because look what you get to do in the aftermath of that. I don't have anyone that just puts everything in my car for me and I just show up. Yeah, right. There's a lot of work behind the scenes. Work is work. But we have have a positive mindset for what is the end result. Or maybe you are beginning something today or you don't know how. Well, open up your heart to that. Pray about it. Pray, God, how can you use me to help others? And it's not everything is about money. And what I've learned is, if you are in the word and you are understanding, reading scripture, getting involved with the group to help you, that God will give you everything you need. It may not be what you want, but you will have everything you need. And you'll see that. You'll see that in being witness to other people's lives, and then having and pouring into you and helping you live a better life. And because I am a parent, I want to teach by role modeling to my children now, that because they had their years where they saw I was a workaholic. I think every entrepreneur in the beginning is. I hope that they stop being a workaholic, like I did, and find the joy and balance in life, because we don't know how long we are going to live. And along the way, I don't want to just, you hear that story where, you can't take your money with you when you die, or you look back and say, all I did was work and I missed out on my family, my friends, my passions. I want to live it along the way.
Wow, it's so beautiful. I love that so much. Yeah. The entrepreneur path for me, yeah, I've caught myself in those spaces where that's something I'm consciously working on, is not giving up on life to try to build a life. Like, it's right now. You get to live it right now. You get to, if your work requires you to be separate from life, then it's not your natural gift. It's going against it. And that doesn't mean that there's not hard work in there and that stuff you have to learn and practice. But it should be able to be everywhere that you are. Like, if you find yourself talking about it to your friends, like, I would annoy my friends because I'm always like giving tips on how they can make it better, more efficient. Like, but if you do this, if you look at it with this perspective, my friends would be like, shut up. I just want to cry. Like, I just want to vent. I'm not looking to be helped. Like,
yeah.
Like, your natural gift comes out of you, and it's been there. And what I'm finding is that it has been there. Like, we leave our breadcrumbs, we always come back to it. It's something that nurtures us out of hard times. And maybe it is painting, maybe it is drawing, maybe it is journaling, maybe it's writing, and maybe you get to start with just one thing and create it for fun. I remember when I was married and I was just having my first son, and like, I remember going through like Walmart to go pick up something, and I got really depressed. I was like, okay, I've got the house, I got married, I had the kid, what's left? Like, what is like, we're not taught how to be woman, and to own it, or mother. And I remember going down the kids aisle, like the toys. My son was still just he was probably like 4 weeks old, maybe, my first outing to go get formula or something. I don't know. But I remember walking down the aisle going, oh my God, I get to do everything again. I get to bring instead of I get to bring all the bubbles. I get to bring all of the Slinkies, all of the Play-Doh. Like, it was this, awakening for me that I get to do and create.
Yes.
And what you're talking about, like the reading, like, maybe it is contribution that will help awaken that within you. Like, go maybe volunteer reading, go help someone.
What do you get to do? I get, my son is he's 18 and he's a senior in high school. He lives, it's a close walk, it's a 3-minute drive, and people are like, he could walk. And I said, I get to take him to school. I get those, and I get to work from home. I get to live 5 blocks from the beach today, for a girl that never saw the ocean till she was 17 and grew up in the desert. I'm washing my car. I get to have this car I'm washing, like, be grateful for the things that you get to have. And And, the more that you do live in that abundant joy, it doesn't mean it doesn't come with suffering and pain. And like you said earlier, sometimes people just want to cry, and you meet people where they are. They just want the space to be connected. And you remind me very much of a sister of mine, and she's a year younger than me, Ruth. And she like, again, you have other people teach you, because I'm always the type like, okay, let's get out of the grief and pain, let's get into joy, let's have fun. That's the girl I am. People show up when they for me, like, because as my son pointed out when he was 5 years old, for every 60 seconds of suffering, for every 60 seconds of anger, you lose 60 seconds of happiness. I mean, and I've learned that you can have pain and peace at the same time, and that's okay. And all these messages that I have, this Rolodex of, okay, go to this quote, go to this scripture, go to this friend, connect with those people. And that's who I am. But my sister, she's like, she works with people that go through extreme pains or traumas and things like that. And I can understand what that's like. I've had my own fair share. But at the same time, I just say, well, God gifted me to be the one that people want to have fun with, and bring that out. I will take that baton. I don't know, and not that I don't know how to meet someone where they're, when they are suffering. I do. I hug them. I want to love on them, and I could get people to be vulnerable and real. It's good to share that. And then there's still like, okay, how can we have, like, I want to go like, okay, how can we, okay, now what can we do for fun at now? Like, how do we change that mindset? I don't know. Is that wrong to want to change that mindset?
I don't think so. I think that's the empowerment when you realize that you have a choice. A lot of my suffering in my younger years, especially when I was healing, I didn't realize that I had the choice. And that victim mentality, they call it, like, when I first heard that concept, I was actually kind of triggered. I'm like, you don't know what I've been through, like, and as I've like even grown into adulthood and have the awareness that I do have the choice, it is literally one of the biggest things that I still have to be so consciously aware of, like stopping the voice, because it was that very, not to hate that side of me. It was that victim that could share what I was going through and like feel sorry to keep me safe in a way. It was an act of survival to be like, to cower,
well, you want permission to be that and grieve and there's times that I drop off my son at school and I come home, and I got this from a Tony Robbins seminar when I was young. And you have, Lisa, you have 10 minutes to cry, to, say all this, and then you're done. You're done with that, because you have the rest of the day. And there's times that, it's just me. I don't have, like, you sometimes as you grow up, you're like, I don't have anyone to go to right now. If you have to solve your own life, you have to self-soothe. And so again, this collective work that I've done from great other leaders in my life that poured into me. And that's what I do. And then you got to rise to the occasion. Or, I could go jump in my bed, and 10 minutes can turn into all day. And there's no right or wrong. I mean, there's times that that you do belong in that bed for a long time and sleep. Our bodies need sleep and healing. And there's no right or wrong for grieving and healing. There's no right or wrong. You are where you are supposed to be. And I pray for people, in their moments of sorrow, despair, that they just reach out to someone who can be there for you, listen to you. And I really feel that God knows what he's doing in this master plan, that you're going to meet someone that's going to pull you out, that's going to show you a different way, as my sisters did when they asked me, what's your relationship with God at one of the darkest times of my life? And what is your relationship with God? And, being truthful. And I didn't have one. And that started my path to changing that, because I saw what it did for them and their stories and others. And that's a lot of times when people reach out to me, the first question I ask is, what is your relationship with God? It's for you to know, what that is. And for me, that's been like the answer to the $64 billion question of what is the meaning of life? What are we here for? What is our meaning? How are we supposed to help others? What's going to happen to us when we do die? What are we going to leave behind? What's our legacy? And every day you get to create that slate. You have a clean slate every day if you want. You could continue the slate you had from yesterday. That's this masterpiece, because each one of us, you are God's masterpiece.
Mm, it's so beautiful. Like, it's, yeah, the relationship, the connection. I mean, when you talk about the big grand plan, like what is the overall biggest like legacy is, I always say this, like every one of us are in this together. Like until every one of us is on each other's side connecting, right? Then we're not doing good enough. There's still opportunity. There's still a chance. And it's about being conscious enough to choose the relation, for me, choosing that connection, right? Choosing it with humans, choosing it with myself, choosing it, you know, with awareness, not because someone else told me to, choosing God over and over again, choosing God in a world, especially being like in the realms that I've been in, like there's so much woundings about being a Christian. There's so many incredibly powerful spiritual people out there that have been hurt by the church. And my experience also reflects that. And it doesn't, the church isn't God, right? The church isn't the relationship. And like my house wasn't my marriage. My stroller wasn't my son. Like just because there's a container or something we've
Mm-hmm.
created out of our creation,
Mm-hmm.
that
Mm-hmm.
will never, ever, ever be able to come in between. Like just the intimacy of having a conversation, the inspiration that I'm having inside just to meet you and we get to define what relationship with God is. We get to be curious in that childlike spirit. And that's what the Bible says, like, come to me as little children, right? We
Yeah.
get to rebirth that in curiosity rather than having to know all the answers about everything. Maybe, like we talk about knowledge is power, but I've been saying this week, knowledge without action is just a thought. And really, like children, they would take those thoughts and then they would go try something like, yeah, the magnifying glass will, do this thing. Oh, okay. And they're out in the back with the magnifying glass trying to turn the leaf into like a little whole checkerboard. And they go climb the tree, they go smell the flower. If you watch them, they're just in experiencing, and we get to show up that way to just be who we are and not, having to have it all figured out, not having to know anymore, like, but to really understand and feel and have that relationship with the experiencing of it. And yeah, I'm just so grateful for this relationship, meeting you, getting to talk to you about these incredibly cool things. And I this is totally a bragging rights. I don't even know if this is appropriate, but I was in the McGee Center when I was 14, and that's like a home for runaways where they put you like in an
Yeah.
institution.
Yeah.
And I remember I wrote a children's book in there, and I would love to share it with you.
Yes. Do you still have it?
It's at the center, like I
Oh,
don't, I didn't
oh
want
my gosh.
it.
That
It
is
was called
so,
it was called Tim the Tiniest Tree. And it was a little
oh,
story about like this little tree. It was a little pine tree in the forest, and all the big trees would just make fun of it and just like, you're so little, la la la. And then one day there was a little boy that was lost wandering through the forest, and it was starting to get dark and cold, and he saw Tim the tiniest tree. And because he was so small and snug to the ground, the little boy was able to curl up next to him and stay warm from the cold and safe from all the wolves and the bears in the forest. And the next day the parents and the team of rescuers are going through the forest and shouting out, and the little boy wakes up and he just loves the tree and he's like, thank you, and he's playing, there's a little squirrel. And like as the family came and got the boy, they just thanked the tree, and they were like, this is odd that this tree never grew bigger like the other ones. And it made all the big trees super jealous, and they like started to be super inclusive, realizing that because they were so big, they never could have kept the little boy warm. They couldn't, and they, having that dialogue and that realization, they started to honor the little tree that they were making fun of the whole time.
oh, okay. I love that story. Yes. Why aren't you like running with that more?
I was 14. I'm like 43 now. I totally
No,
forgot
but do
about that.
you know that again, if someone would have told me when I was 14, remember we talked about vulnerability, creativity, you're not taught what I've learned is that people, we get older, whatever that is, we talk ourselves out of doing things. You know how many people have said, I've always wanted to write a book. And, the statistic is like 97% of people that want to write a book, less than 3% do. And I'm always like, you should do it. It's just like you said, I wrote down this quote and I'm going to quote you. I'm going to quote you on it. Knowledge without action is just a thought.
Mm-hmm.
And so sometimes when you're young, you could be the creators of the future, and all the things that you're creating. And being young is such a gift. It's such I love that I get inspired by so many littles all the time, including my children. Um, with innovation, they're teaching me like AI now and why it's important. And I'm saying, teach me, and wow, is it amazing. So I think it's important to honor yourself. And by the way, I honor you for that, sharing that. I honor you for sharing your story and the rough beginnings in life. We're all dealt different cards. There's a song about that. And sometimes I'm like, I wish my cards were different than hers or his. But you know what? Okay, this is the cards we were dealt. How do
Mm-hmm.
we make the best of it? I am so grateful to connect with you and your audience. I want to do things with you, whatever that is we pray about and collaborate. I love the connection I have with you.
Yeah.
And I want to meet you in person. I want to design whatever that God to design to, I mean, come down here where I live in Huntington Beach. We could do a workshop here, a retreat. Let's live in that joy.
Heck
And
yeah.
I want to do that with people that is so meaningful, so deep that the passion is so deep. Your passion is so monumental, and there's a lot of unknown, believe me, for me too. And I'm like, hey, let's do great things together with that. And instead of just going around it like life is lost affair, and I those aren't the people I could have these deep connections with today that I want to. And for me, I have so much love in my heart. I could tell you do too. And I just say, God, connect me with the lovers of the world that want to help and share love. That's what I want.
Yeah, I feel the exact same way. Yeah, I'm just so grateful. I felt alone in that for so long, and it's so amazing to just start putting yourself out there. You actually, like what you said in the beginning, it does come to you. I felt like from holding myself back, the very thing I wanted and desired and needed, I was robbing myself of the experience of that. And now that I'm just like, okay, let's do the thing. Let's do, the thing. Now I'm finding that, and I feel that connection coming in. It's so beautiful. Um, just to segue, I want to invite you. I heard that you have a free gift for our audience and that
Yes.
you invite them to work with you and follow your work. And so I wanted to give you
Yes. So my name's Lisa Caprelli. You could go to lisacaprelli.com, CAPRELLI.com. If you have a child or a little or a teacher, an educator in your life, please share with them unicornjazz.com. Unicornjazz.com. And my free gift is if you want my skip a step journal, or if you want to skip a step on Audible, just reach out to me on social media. I'm very easy to find, and just mention legacy leadership, this that you found us on this show. And I have lots of freebies for you to get you motivated and inspired so that you can continue to find and tap into that inner beautiful child that you are, and to let you know that you belong and that you matter and that you are important on this earth. And I would love to, in any way, I hope that our messages today have inspired you to reach out and seek any one of us out.
I love that so much. And I don't know if maybe what came through just now is like, if you're an educator, you have a platform of children, maybe it would be also something you could reach out to Lisa and maybe discuss a speaking event or like an event for the children. So something to think about if you're trying to, find those connections in the world. And I'm totally like, inviting for you. I don't even know if that's
No, please do. I always do virtual author visits in person. I have different price ranges for them. If I'm reaching out to a Title I school or a lower socioeconomic school, remember I came from that. I never say no. I never say no to be in front of children and find out how I'm going to get there. I have visions and dreams, and they're happening that I get to travel anywhere in the world is children. and leave a little mark on this earth. And I'm grateful, and I need an army of people. So if there's a way I can connect with you and we can collaborate, there's always, when there's a will, there's a way.
Heck yes. Heck yes. I love it so much. Thank you, Lisa. I appreciate
Thank you.
it.
Thank you, Kim.
We'll have all your information up on the site afterwards. Ciao.
Okay.